Welcome to the People Sports Podcast. I'm Mark Titus. She is Charlotte Wilder, and we have torn up our notes and thrown them into the garbage because this is turning into one of the wildest days, certainly. And Charlotte, you remember last week we did the show and we commented that it's like the stars had aligned for you and I for the People Sports Podcast. All the boxes were checked. It's like are the content gods just aligning the stars for you and I because of the Bryson DeChambeau, Aaron Rodgers crossover news story, what have you. We know what happened.
Right.
This morning, basically what has happened in this world, and by the way, we're recording this on Wednesday. It's 11:30 here on the West Coast. I don't know what that makes it on the East Coast. And frankly, I don't care.
It's 7 at night, Mark.
Okay.
That's what time it is.
It's not even noon. And two massive stories have broken that. Number one, Brad Stevens has stepped down as the head coach of the Boston Celtics. He will now take over Danny Ainge's job because Danny Ainge is retired from GM / president / who the hell even really knows what his title was. He just kind of runs. He's just the guy that kind of runs the Celtics.
He's just his title, Mark. His title is Danny Ainge.
His title is Danny Ainge.
No one knows what he does, but it's just like I'm a Celtics fan and I'm like Danny Ainge. No idea why he's there, but he's around.
And Danny Ainge is no longer going to be Danny Ainge. Brad Stevens is going to be Danny Ainge.
There you go. You picked up down.
That news breaks. That is the biggest story in basketball. That is, how could anything possibly top this? We will talk about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. And oh my God, Mike Krzyzewski is retiring. And Charlotte, last week it was the People Sports Podcast. This week, I hate to say this to you, but this is the Titus and Tate stars that have aligned with these two. And I want you to come along with me. I'm not going to cheat on you all the way. I want to talk it out with you, but I've been texting Tate all morning, just losing my mind. Like I called him like 3 different times. We're texting back and forth. It is insane. So that's where we're at. I just wanted to preface the show with that because all of this has happened very quickly, and we have a set time where we record the show. You and I record the show, and if we sound like we're in disarray more than usual, that's why.
Here's what I want to say, Mark, is I'm glad you brought that up because first of all, we were going to do a whole show on fans, which I'm really glad we don't have to do that anymore because I do have some thoughts on fans, which is that they're just the worst. We are the worst, I should say. I'm one of them, and we can get to that at the end, but Celtics news breaks. That is obviously near and dear to my heart. And then the Coach K stuff happens. And my first thought was like, oh, hell yeah. Like we have something great to talk about. My second thought was we have to talk about this, Mark, in a way that only the People Sports Podcast.
Ooh, that's right.
About this. Like, I don't want to do a Titus and Tate show. I don't want, I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, in a smart way. I want to hear, what are the off the rails that, what are the, smart.
Yeah,
I mean,
smart. But I don't think you know the show too well, but go ahead.
But, from a basketball perspective.
Okay, basketball perspective.
I want to look at this from, what is the New England coastal elite take and what is the Midwestern take? And also, what are the tangents that you take away? What is the stuff that you 7 beers in with your friends, you start talking about when it relates to Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens and Coach K?
Right. Because Brad Stevens, we in the show we did yesterday, read through the emails and a handful of people were pointing out the differences between the two of us. And we were having fun discussing that, our upbringings and all that kind of stuff. If you were to make a Venn diagram for all the things we have different between us, if we were to make a Venn diagram, the one little sliver that overlaps, I think just in the middle is Brad Stevens. I think that's what it is.
That's why
I think that's it. That's it. It's that's nothing else. It's you and I are trying to make, if we went on a first date, we'd be like, so what are you into? And you'd say stuff and be like, no, or I guess sailing now. Cause I sail, but it's
sailing and you'd be like, where are you from? And I'd be like, Boston. You'd be like, all right, well, the only thing we can talk about is Brad Stevens.
That's it. That's all we would talk. If we went on a first date, we talk about Brad Stevens for 4 hours and
100%. And then it would end up in an argument. It would end in a fight, It
would end in a fight about what he loves more, is it Indiana or Boston? And he kind of killed that. That's what Brad Stevens broke my heart. I'll be honest. When I woke up and saw the news, first of all, I had people calling me, and it kind of broke at, I want to say 7-ish a.m. And I had woken up, but I was slow to get out of bed. I assume a lot of people are that way. You kind of wake up and just slowly.
Listen, I told you I got out of bed at noon the other day. You're talking to the right person.
So I was awake, but when the news broke, but I wasn't really out of bed yet. And I was just kind of checking my phone and all that. And then all of a sudden a wave of people just start texting me, and I check Twitter, and it's just a nightmare situation in the mentions of people talking about Brad Stevens. And honestly, Charlotte, my first reaction is like, I don't want to revisit this again. I put this to bed because when Brad Stevens, when I was trying to meme him to Indiana, and boy, did I try. I gave it all I had. I've never memed so hard in my life.
Yeah, you memed for all you were worth.
Yeah, I want to retire from Twitter. Like that was the moment I think I was like, I think I'm done here. Like I gave it all I could. I came up a little short. The game has passed me by. So when I was trying to meme Brad Stevens to IU, and it looked like there might be a sliver of a chance because he wasn't denying it really and was kind of being weird about, how he was phrasing things when he would be asked about it. And then he does that press conference where he's like, everyone shut the hell up. I'm not going to Indiana. I am a masshole. And he just goes like completely the other way where all he had to say was like, I'm not taking the job. Shut up. He was like, I love the Patriots. I love Dunkin' Donuts. I'm a mass. He literally called himself a masshole.
Like Casey Affleck and Ben Affleck are my literal brothers.
Yes. And I'm watching that, and I seriously was like, this dude's about to say my name because it's so personal. Like everything he's saying felt like a direct attack on me personally. That I was like, this hurts. And the point is, Charlotte, like when he said that, I was like, I have to be done. I have to just put all this to bed. I will never mention their name, Brad Stevens, again. I will never feel anything for this man ever again.
Yeah.
That was devastating to me. And so when I woke up and I saw that Brad Stevens was stepping down as the coach, and some people were trying to like make me feel good because they're like, dude, you were kind of right that like he was gonna make a change, that he didn't want to be the. And I was like, I don't.
No, you weren't. You were.
Charlotte, they took it off the board in Vegas. What else? Do you want?
But oh my God, we are not doing it again.
No.
However, I did think to myself. And don't let this go to your head like that comment from Mrs. What was her name? Mrs. Brewer. Who said you look good with the new haircut.
Brewer.
Yeah, you
hey,
got
Mrs.
a hat
Brewer,
on now.
DM's still open.
She can't tell you have a hat on. You ruined it.
That's true.
Where was I? Oh, don't let this go to your head. My first thought was, okay, well, Mark was right. There was a change.
But
then I tweeted, it's like Club Trillion said all along. Brad Stevens to IU, which is part of our new segment. Me reading my tweets aloud. It all comes full circle. So yeah, as I was getting, because our mutual friend Dan Katz FaceTimed me twice because I declined. He calls me and like I'm in bed, I'm laying in bed and I get a FaceTime from Dan Katz and I say to myself, this can't be good. Like no, I'm not interested. Like part of my mind was going like he's on the air and I didn't know I didn't know that Brad Stevens was. I thought he was going to call me about LeBron. I thought he was going to call me and be like, you're a LeBron guy, which I'm not really. I just think LeBron's like talented, but also like him quitting on his team is bullshit. And I didn't love that, but we can talk about that too.
We'll talk about that. But I thought that's what in my mind, Dan was calling me because he's live on the air. He wants me to defend LeBron. And I was like, I literally just woke up. I can't do this. So I declined it. And then 5 minutes later, he calls me again. And I'm like, all right, I better answer this. And he wanted to just talk about Stevens. And he was killing me. And he's like, Brad Stevens would rather just retire, would rather not coach at all than coach at Indiana for $7 million a year, and on and on and on. And then on the flip side, some people were trying to spin it as though I was kind of right because it was like you read the tea leaves that Brad Stevens was not exactly happy as his job, like that he would shake it up and maybe. And it does. I will say, Charlotte, it does leave the door open. As much as people in the NBA want to roll their eyes at it, it does leave the door open for Brad Stevens to come back to college. I think Indiana's going to put it to bed.
Oh my God! How
does it not? How does it not? Not now. Not now. I'm saying
Brad Stevens is now Danny Ainge, so he gets he can be the puppet master. He doesn't have to be one of the puppets.
No. I'm going to tell you how, because
please.
This is not coaching. Like his job. So the whole reason people would say Brad Stevens doesn't want to go back to college is because they said he hated recruiting. He hated like dealing with like all of that. What he wanted to do was just coach and have relationships and make guys better players. So if that was your point of view of why he didn't want to go to college,
that's
his job now is, that's what his job now is. He's not going to coach anybody. He's not going to foster relationships. He's going to now, like, he looks at spreadsheets and say, we're paying Kemba Walker how many million and for how many years? Like, how do we get under the cap, but also luxury tax? And like, that's his job. And this is a guy who grew up and like he grew up like wanting to, like his start at Butler, what got him going at Butler was like finding diamonds in the rough. Like Matt Howards of the world and Ronald Noreds of the world. And like taking guys like that and building relationships, going to the Final Four with them. Like that was what he loved about the job. And now he's not going to do that. So the reason it opens the door is that I'm not saying now, I'm saying like fast forward 4 or 5 years and Brad Stevens is like, what the hell am I doing? This isn't me. I don't want to like.
So you're playing the super long game here.
Yes. But I'm not saying go back to IU. I'm not going to meme him back to IU. I'm saying it leaves the door open for him
Yes,
to
you
go
are.
back to
You're such a
college
liar.
somehow.
In 5 years, you're going to set a calendar reminder right after the show and set it for 5 years from now. And it'll be like, start memeing Brad Stevens. You are so 100% going to do
I'm
that.
out of the
And I'm gonna
game,
be
Charlotte.
helping
I'm
you.
done.
I'm going to be helping you from our studio show in, as the highest paid talent at Fox Sports.
Yeah. We've taken over Skip and Shannon. And,
right, and the network is in disarray and it's the apocalypse. No, but look, okay. So, all right, fine. You could be potentially right there. However, I would argue that part of the role of a GM of like making these personnel decisions is that to a degree where he also doesn't have to like run practice. I would argue he's like sick of running practice. Like here's
This is where I think you and I can shine, and we could have a show that's not Titus and Tate. Because,
all right, so what?
The armchair psychology, because we did this with Aaron Rodgers last week of trying to figure out, is he happy? Is he going to retire?
Well, that's what I the one note I wrote down. We both said that we before we hopped on here, we were like, I have no notes. Do you have any notes? And it was like, no. And it was like, this will be a dynamite show.
Perfect.
The one note I have is in all caps. Sorry. Coach K is in all lowercase. And then in all caps underneath that, it says, we just talked about how he won't retire. So like, I think because when we were talking about Aaron Rodgers and Roy Williams being like, hey, maybe I can just be happy. And we're like, but the Coach K's of the world just keep on coaching.
Yes.
Coach K isn't coaching. Yep. Brad Stevens, a guy who's like, oh, I famously love to coach. Like Brad Stevens is one of those guys who's just like the armchair psychology of him is that he is a nice guy who loves to coach.
Yes.
And like, maybe we were wrong.
Maybe we were wrong the whole time.
What if we were wrong?
Maybe. What if? Not you and I.
I mean,
we're
like never wrong.
Not you. We're never wrong. But
we're
like
never
the world at large was wrong about Brad Stevens. No, this is I called my dad immediately because as backstory, in all honesty, my family has known Brad Stevens forever, and I don't say that to like name drop, but like it's to give you like, I wasn't just like a guy that like wanted to meet Brad home. Like part of it was. I've known him forever.
Personal, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't talk to the guy. I don't talk to him anymore. It's not like I call Brad Stevens every Tuesday and ask him how he's doing.
But he never reached out to you when you were memeing him back to IU.
No. But if
that's funny to me, he was probably like, so that press conference was for you. He's probably, but that's what Mark.
Yeah, when I mentioned earlier that I expected him to say my name, that sounded very egotistical, but like Brad knows me and I know him. So like there was like a small sliver that'd be like, so please, for the love of God, Titus, stop memeing. I didn't actually expect it to happen, but the road he was going down, I was like, oh no, Brad, this is like he's coming for my heart right now. So I called my dad because, my dad has known Brad my dad used to watch Brad Stevens play in high school when he was at Zionsville High School. And so I was just like, what do you think's going on here, Dad? Because I really, part of like thinking Brad would go back to IU was the draw home. It was it's where he's from. And part of my armchair psychology with that was thinking the pandemic, because I do want to talk to you about this a little bit. Like the pandemic, I think has played a role in people, all of us, me, everyone listening, Coach K, Brad Stevens, really. I really do think it served as an opportunity for people to like stop and think about like what matters in your life.
Totally.
People you're spending time with, what you're spending time doing. Existential crisis might start seeping in a little bit, and like, oh my God, like what is this? What I want to do? Whatever. So I thought Brad might feel the draw back home. Ultimately, he did not. But then, some of the narrative was like he was the head coach of the Boston Celtics. No one in their right mind would voluntarily give that job up. Like that is the job. It's that and the Lakers. Those are the two most, prestigious jobs in basketball. No one would voluntarily step down from that. And then here he is stepping down from that. And so I called my dad and I'm just like, what do you think's going on? And not that we need to hash out what my dad's conversation was, but that's where my mind went, was like trying to play the armchair psychology.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to do that with you, Charlotte, of like what, because this sort of is unprecedented to have a guy do this, that to be in a position that everyone does believe that this is the pinnacle of the profession that he's in.
Yeah.
And now he's going to have like, I guess, more control over the team, but it's different. It's because people don't know who the GM of every team is, but I guess they don't know who the coach, but you know what I'm saying? Like the coach
is visible.
If you're the basketball guy and you live and breathe the sport, no one is growing up saying like, I want to be the GM of a team someday. You're like, I want to be a coach or I want to be a player. Those are the two things I want to do. And a GM you just kind of fall into, or the president of operations, whatever the title is. So yeah, I'm curious. What do you think's going on here?
I'm really glad you brought that up because I was thinking before we hopped on here that I like the reason I love sports. Also, I got into a fight with someone at a birthday party about this weekend, and it was someone I don't know. So I think that my reentry into society is going very well. He was like, he he was it was a bunch of people who were not in sports, and he was like, "Do you, you know, I said something about somehow we got to where he was like, well, the asshole fans, which is funny because I'm about to say the asshole fans a little bit later in the show, but I got very defensive. I was like, no, man, like get out of here with that. I was like, I was like, don't do this. I was like, what I admire so much, and this is coming back around to Brad Stevens, I promise. I was like, what I admire so much about sports fans is this ability to care so much about something that doesn't even know you exist. Like the guy in the Eagles sweatshirt, in Mayor of Easttown, who doesn't know who the team doesn't know he exists.
Right.
But he cares so much about that team, and it reminds him of watching games with his dad or watching games with his daughter, or like it is a place. And I think that sports are huge for this, for people who have grown up feeling like you're not allowed to have emotions or you can't really express yourself. Like if it's a sports team, you can yell at the TV. Like it is still manly to cry when your team finally wins the championship. Like I think there's a lot of misplaced. So I go, keep in mind, I go on this rant at a birthday party. Like I'm like, I was a Moscow, like a few wines and a Moscow Mule in. And I was like, no, do not, like, honor the fans. I was like, this is my entire career. And then he stops and he was like, you missed one very important thing about sports. And I was like, oh, did I? I was like, oh, please tell me. And he was like, the narrative and the storytelling. And I was like, I'm a writer. Are you kidding me? Like that's my entire, like, so I think of that sort of emotion and passion, and it's the feelings and the psychology that make me love this. Like it's even the Nick Saban's daughter's wedding hashtag deep dives where I'm like, what is like, what, like I wanted to ask you, like, what would it be like asking Nick Saban for his daughter's hand? It's that kind of thing that really I think we talked about that and like gets me going. And I think that Brad Stevens is such an unbelievably interesting example of this, especially from your and my perspectives, where like, him, what kind of place he comes from. I know what kind of place he ended up in.
Yeah.
Like he is in Boston. And to me, to choose, like, Boston is such a radically different place. And yet I think thinks of itself as a place that has the same sort of Midwestern values. It's like what we were talking about when we were talking about the difference between nice and kind. And like LA is nice, but like the East Coast could maybe be kind because like you'll be a dick about it, but like I'll help you, tow your car wherever you need me. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think that there's like a Midwestern sort of like down homeness that Boston fancies itself as, that either Brad feels comfortable in is, this is wild speculation. Like, I don't know, but for him to, I think that the coaching in the pandemic wore him down. Like I've seen reports about that. And to me, it's not necessarily a stepping back from the biggest job. To me, it's like a more powerful version of that job, because that whoever he brings in, he's going to be like, hey man, coach him this way. Like he gets to be the guy behind the curtain without having to deal. It would be like if you and I could finally delete our social media accounts, but like still run this show, or like, you know what I mean? Like the freedom that must come with not having a camera on your face every second of every game. And I just talked for a long time and I don't know how it all related.
No, I think it's a great point that there's definitely, as much as we're joking about the armchair psychology and trying to assign meaning to stuff where there might not actually be meaning. I don't know how you can look at this and not think that there's something to that there was some sort of, I mean, he said as much as you said, that seems to be what people are saying, is that the bubble, something about the bubble and the pandemic and all of it just made him reassess like what he wants to. I still don't think he wants to be this long. I don't think this is a long-term answer. I don't see how, I don't know. I could be wrong, but like, I still feel like this, what I know about Brad Stevens, this job is not going to scratch the itch in the way that he wants it. But I think what it will do is temporarily pull him back from some madness that he was experiencing as the head coach of the Boston Celtics during a pandemic. Just all of the whole scene with the Kyrie Irving element of this, and Jaylen Brown's out, and the Indiana rumors start swirling. And then, which whether, I was memeing them, but it was a real thing. I mean, they
Yeah.
offered him the job and he considered it for a day or two.
There were
and then
planes flying back and
yeah,
forth.
they were playing. So like he had to address that and he thought about it. And I do think by the way, my narrative that I'm going with is that he took the Indiana offer, used it as leverage, talked it out with Danny Ainge. Cause this wasn't a spur of the moment thing. Charlotte.
I know.
It's not like they lost to the Nets last night and then they woke up like in the locker room last night. Danny and Brad were like, "Hey, what if I quit and then you become me?" Right. Like they had hashed this out for a while. So and I think that explains sort of Brad's the whole that makes the attitude around the Indiana that week where he was he weighing the job but not really, and then he said he wasn't offered the job, but you're like, what do you mean you weren't offered the job? Like, you were obviously offered the job. That's what makes sense to me, was that he not that he I don't know, that just that like I think sometime either then or even before then, this sort of plan had been put in place that maybe this would be Brad's last year as the coach, but he's still going to stay in Boston. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Cause like, this really is unique. And, that a guy would step back. And I don't know if it's a long-term answer for him, but the madness had to wear on him. I don't know.
I think that's right. And I think the theme of this show, actually, what felt sort of disorganized when we were thinking about it is those decisions, and is what this last year made everybody think about. And I almost feel like you and I should come up with a list on the spot at the end of the show, like top 5 guys you'd least expect to retire, who are going to retire.
Who are going to retire? Yeah.
Like, who are the guys, where you're like never going to leave and then leave the job. So like,
for God's sakes, we might be watching it in real time with LeBron.
Yeah,
I mean, not really, but also like, if you watch that game last night, he walks off the court with 5 minutes left and he's looking around. He's like, my teammates are ass and Anthony Davis is hurt. And like, we won it last year and I'm 36 years old. And I mean, it sounds crazy saying out loud because you think LeBron's going to play till he's 48 and his son's coming up and like, he's still got a ton left in the tank. And like, LeBron loves being LeBron and being the center of attention and running the league and all that. All of those things are true, but we're finding this more and more, Charlotte, that
I have
guys
it.
are just what?
Do you want to go super deep armchair psychology here?
Okay, please.
This is, I'm so smart. This is people realizing their mortality. This is guys like Roy Williams and Coach K and LeBron, who seemed larger than life, who seemed like they were going to do it forever. This pandemic, like, I don't know, I found myself being superstitious weirdly. Like, I knock on wood all the time now. It was like you were made so aware of the fact that this is so fragile. These guys, maybe they're suddenly like, yeah, I am a person and I'm getting older and maybe I want to spend time with my family. Or maybe if you're LeBron, you're like, is it worth it to put another team on my back that really hurts? Like, what if I could just smoke cigars in my pool and can't believe this is my life? Like, what if that's what Aaron Rodgers in Hawaii? Like, what if we are watching like a sports-wide reckoning of who gives a shit? Actually,
what if there's no more sports? What if everybody retires?
All the athletes are like, we're rich now. Let's just invest smartly and like head on out.
No, what the pandemic did that's what I said, for not just the athletes and coaches, but for you, me, everyone listening, is I think it removed distractions. I think when you take away the ability to go out to eat and go to movies and watch sports and see friends and do all, which, I don't mean to reduce those down to like the only function they serve in our life is to distract us from our existential doom, or, like, that's not it. But when you remove all of that stuff and you're basically just left alone in a room to think and dwell on like where you're at in life and what you're trying to accomplish and who, like I said, you kind of also you in those moments have to define during the past however many months, like we all have had to kind of figure out who is our circle, because like as stuff start, like at first you were seeing nobody, but then they were like, okay, you could see people in your household. And if you live alone, you're like, what does that mean? Who's in my household?
Right.
And you start taking stock of like, who are your friends? Who are your family? And I think that was true of all of us. And I do think that is happening. I think it sounds insane to say that because it is armchair psychology. True. I think it's like, again, one of these people that we're talking about is going to speak out. Like Brad Stevens is going to hear this and be like, will you guys shut the hell up? Like, I just wanted
like,
to
Titus, for God's sake, stop. I live rent free in your head.
Yeah. But I think at the larger scale, I don't know how you can look at the patterns that are happening with these decisions and the behaviors that we're seeing, which seem in a vacuum, each one seems a little strange,
Mm-hmm.
but Roy Williams retiring, Aaron Rodgers' behavior, Brad Stevens stepping down, Coach K now, like all of these in a vacuum, you'd be like, wow, that's a little weird. But then you start paying attention and you're like, maybe it's not that weird. And I
Yeah.
think you're right. Maybe it's not. Maybe
I
LeBron is
think
going to retire.
I would
You
if
heard it
I
here first. Let's say it.
okay, yeah.
LeBron James, this is his last year. When he loses to the Suns in the first round, I think he's going to retire in the offseason. I think that's it. I think Space Jam 2 is going to be a hit. He's going to just decide, I want to be a Hollywood guy, and that's all he's going to do is just Hollywood stuff and retire and try to buy a team.
I cannot wait to tweet this out when you're right. Oh my God, I'm so excited because that's true. I'm sorry. That's what's going to happen. Like, I think sort of grinding through it. I mean, I also personally came to this realization this year. First of all, that like I drastically changed the way I use social media because in a pandemic, you know, social media used to be like, look how cool my life is. And like, you know, and I'll use it for work still, you know, like, I don't know if this is breaking this news here, but I'm going to the Westminster Dog Show.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
And you didn't invite me? How am I not?
Well, I'm about to invite you to ask, ask Buck if you can come. So, shout out Mike Buckland. No, but so like I'll use it then, right? I'll be like, this is for work. I'm in a fun place, but like I no longer feel like it's appropriate to be like, hey, check out this, you know, really fun party I'm at, or check, like, it just feels sort of like it felt rude during the pandemic where people were dying to be like, hey, look, I got this. It just like, it was sort of crass, right? And like, I felt that way. And I found myself being like, I don't really want to use this that way. Like, that makes me feel like a douchebag. And like, I think that sort of thing in terms of the public stuff that maybe, you know, I am by no means, I do not know what it's like to be Brad Stevens, but I do know what it's like to feel like, oh God, do I really want to like put that out? Do I want to be out there right now? And I have a choice. I can use it for work and not do that. Brad Stevens is like, he's like public every time, whether he wants to be or not. And I think that the sort of, it just made you think like, hey, what is really important here? And for some people, that's Hawaii with a rainbow, you know, like it really did make some things clear. And it also made it as like, do you have to like punish yourself to be successful or to have the best job? Like these athletes who put their body through so much for so long, feeling like, well, if I don't get to Jordan's 6 rings, then like I'm nothing.
Right.
What if maybe they stopped and realized like, am I?
Yeah, we talked about that with
Rodgers.
Yeah, we talked about that with Rodgers. And I swear at some point we're going to have fun talking about this stuff instead of just like reminding everybody of the existential dread of the last
right. Besides telling everyone, hey, you're going to die someday. Sorry.
But the idea of like having a plan of what success looks like in your life is something that I also revisited a lot. And if we're already well past the point of armchair psychology, so let's just
let's dive right in.
That like if you take Brad Stevens as an example, that success looks like this. And if you're going to be a coach, you have to coach at the highest level. And then once you're at the highest level, you have to now win NBA championship. You have to do this, and all this stuff is what success looks like. And it's same with Aaron Rodgers, kind of the success looks like this. You win MVPs, you win Super Bowls, you keep doing that over and over and over. And once you do that, you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. And then at some point your arm falls off and you're there, and that's how it works. That I certainly know I spend a lot of time like reassessing what my career is, what success looks like in my career, what success looks like in my life, what am I trying? And like maybe success for Brad Stevens is like, I don't need to go to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose like I do all the time. maybe like if I get over the hump.
First of all,
if I go to the NBA Finals, even if I win a title, it would be awesome. That's something I obviously want to do, but what is success in my life? And then you ultimately take a step back and you make this list of like, these are the things that I'll look back on in my life and say, if I do these things, I am successful. And maybe he looks at that list, and as it turns out, like, you know, having Kemba Walker play meaningful minutes is not on that list. You know, like the team Kemba Walker is getting paid how much money. Maybe that is not on his list, and maybe his list is spend time with family more, which like I don't know the role that he's going to have now, but I imagine.
Do you think he'd have to travel for every game?
No,
See,
No.
like,
Right.
hell yeah, like, go Brad. I'm so
Less
into
pressure in general of,
Yep.
you know, like you still have pressure. Let's not get that wrong. If you screw up a trade, screw up a draft pick, people are coming for your neck, but not the day-to-day pressure.
Right.
If you're losing to the Magic at halftime, you're not having people like calling for your head, you
Right.
know. So maybe it's a lot of that. I don't know what the answer is, but it certainly is one of those deals where, just to kind of put a bow on all of this, is that the headline is shocking, the initial report is shocking, and then you think about it and it's like, maybe it shouldn't be. And I think that you're right, that maybe this isn't the last of this. Maybe even Coach K is not the last of this, that there's going to be more, not even old guys, because like college basketball has a ton of old coaches that we've been awaiting as a sport this reckoning for a while, because
Totally.
Tom Izzo's getting up there, Bob Huggins is getting up there, Jim Boeheim is getting up there, even Bill Self's like not as old as those guys, but he's certainly not a young man anymore. And
Yeah.
you start looking around the landscape. So I think like those retirements are certainly going to happen. Like Jim Boeheim, no matter when Jim Boeheim retires, I don't think it's going to be shocking per se.
No, not I don't
But
think
yeah, but I would not be surprised if more of these sort of the Brad Stevens types and the Aaron Rodgers types, those sort of stories, we see more of those, of not necessarily retiring, but just like, what the hell's going on? Why is the reigning MVP in Hawaii when his team is working out right now? Like, what the hell's going on here? This is shocking. And I think there's going to be more of those where it's like, actually, it might not be that shocking.
I think you're right. And I also think it makes it more understandable in terms of like, if this had all happened before the pandemic, it would have been outrage. It would have been
yeah.
like, and this is sort of what we're seeing with fans and sort of what we're seeing with, you know, I think it kind of all ties together in terms of like how fans have been acting out. And like, because I think before the pandemic, people would have seen, and maybe they still do, you know, maybe people would see Aaron Rodgers, how he's acting now, as selfish, quote. But like,
Yeah.
I think that there's a tiny bit more understanding where maybe before the pandemic, even if I had seen Aaron Rodgers doing that, I'd be like, is he kidding? He's got like success to me means working so hard. And I mean, I think that, not to get too deep or personal, but like I realized that like my type A like ambition, like I have to succeed, like blah blah, like it was like you've got to punish yourself for it. And I said that earlier in the podcast, but even something like I used to run a lot, and I like completely messed up my whole body running and not stretching, and now I can't run, and I do like lovely little walks, and I'm just much happier. And like, and I was I like even something as simple as like the way I worked out shifted, because last spring I was running 10 miles every day, and I was like, if I don't get to 11, I'm a failure. And now I'm like, I'll walk 2 miles and call it a good day, you know? And I feel like that's a little bit of what we're seeing here, which is like it was, and also just like it's exhausting having to play through a pandemic. And something that I think the Celtics are also seeing, which, not to get too basketball-y or anything, but like winning championships takes a lot of luck. And
it does, yes.
And Gordon Hayward's, if he hadn't, you know, if his bone hadn't gone through his ankle, you know, maybe we're seeing a different thing. If like they didn't make bad decisions, like Brad Stevens wasn't a bad coach. It was just like sometimes things don't fall your way. And maybe if you see that happen enough, you're disillusioned with the idea of like a ring means success. Cause you're like, I did the exact same shit that Michael Jordan did. And it just didn't work.
Yeah. That's a great point, that you start to add all that up, and yeah, and there's no rhyme or reason for why people are. I think that's true in a lot of walks of life, a lot of industries, that like
like there's some people in sports media I look at. Are you kidding me? I mean, I'm not going to name names, but
at the same time, shall we? Are we still recording? Can we start?
I mean, like, do we want to get more clicks or?
No, it's true. What you're saying makes a lot of sense. But I don't know. Brad.
How do you think people in Indiana view what Brad's doing right now?
I think the Coach K news has people in Indiana slightly shook about it. I don't think anyone other than John Shire is going to get the job for Duke. John Shire is a guy that won the 2010 title with Duke, and has been an assistant coach for K. And
he got like my age, actually, and Jason Tatum, right? Didn't he recruit?
Yeah, well, Jeff Capel did that, I think.
Oh, okay.
But Shire's a guy. Shire's a K guy. He's my age though. He went to.
He's our age.
Yeah, he's literally my graduating class of high school. That's why I said my age, because I remember him. playing in Chicago. And
Getting older sucks because other people are way more successful than you are.
Well, I actually think of the opposite. Like, you think that makes him successful. I think, like, what the hell is Duke doing? Because like, you're really gonna take the empire that K built and hand it to a guy my age? Are you out of your
And like, we still think
damn
fart
minds?
jokes are really funny.
Yeah,
So
like what? But so I think Shire's gonna get the job, but I think people in Indiana with the K news coming on the heels of the Stevens news are like, oh my God, is Stevens going to Duke? Because that would ruin people, the
wait,
Indiana fans. If
how?
He took
They
a
think
Duke
that he
job.
would take the Danny Ainge, he would
He's not
become
going
Danny
to.
Ainge and then leave to be Coach K?
Yeah. Yes. That would be the fear, but it's not going to happen. That's not realistic, but it's just like, that's the fear. That's where your mind goes. You're like, oh my God, is this going to happen? But no, they're going to hire John Shire, and I don't think Stevens would want it anyway. But I do think the door is open, and like at some point, not to go to IU or Duke or anywhere else, but maybe he'll just go back to an NBA job. But like, I don't think Brad Stevens has coached his last basketball game. I'll just put it that way. I don't think he's coached his last basketball game.
Okay.
Whether that's at Indiana University or he goes back to his roots and coaches second graders in Indianapolis like he used to when I was on his team.
So
I was playing for him. Maybe that's what he does.
I don't know. Did you play for him in second grade?
Yeah.
Wait, that's the cutest thing I've ever heard. I didn't know
that. Some are saying
Were you 6 feet tall yet?
Probably. I was dunking. Some are saying if I don't carry Brad Stevens to those titles in second grade and kickstart his coaching career, we're not talking about him today.
You know, you're laughing, but as I said, I'm getting very superstitious over the pandemic, and I believe in the butterfly effect.
Butterfly effect.
Like, what if Mark Titus never played for Brad Stevens in second grade?
What if second grade Mark Titus wasn't an ogre who was like 3 sizes bigger than every other kid on the court and was just wrecking fools?
The Celtics would have won a championship in the last 10 years.
Yeah, maybe. Can I talk about Coach K a little bit with you? Yes. Because I'm curious your thoughts. First of all, I'm again, because like Tate and I will hash this out on our show, more than nuts and bolts. And Tate Frazier, my God, if there's ever been a guy that's inside Coach K's brain more than that guy, he literally broke the news, by the way. Tate literally broke the news that K was retiring, and no one took him seriously, myself included.
When?
In April. We did a show in April, and Tate shows up, and he's smiling.
Oh wait, I remember that.
And I said, "What's going on?" And he's like, I just got a phone call. That was pretty interesting. I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "I think K's retiring." And I was like, "You're out of your mind. He's not retired." And then he's like, "No, he is." Tate was like real coy and cool about it.
But he
was I was like, Tate, literally anybody could call you and say Tate that K's retiring, and you'll believe him because you want to believe him. And so we do a show, and then Tate says at the end of the show, I was like, all right, so Tate's had the smile on his face all day. I go ahead, Tate. What do you have to say to the people? He's like, I'm going to say this. And then he just basically lays it out. He's like, Coach K is going to retire this year. He's going to do a farewell tour, and that's it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. And we get done recording, and I was like, I remember turning to him and being like, that's perfect because like it's not going to happen, but if it does, you're going to look like a genius. And he's like, I think it's happening. He goes, it's happening. And I was like, what?
Did he ever tell you who the phone call was with?
He did, but I'm not going to out his source.
Good.
I'm not going to.
But like, did it make you believe him more or less?
It did. It made me believe him, but I had sources about Stevens IU. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I talked to many people about Stevens going to IU, and they're like, this is a real thing. There's real smoke. There's real whatever. So things fall through, things change, things, there's a lot of stuff.
But like this one panned out.
This one panned out. So I'll talk to Tate about all that. But what I'm curious is, you, in my mind, in this situation, represent just the average American sports fan who's not like in the weeds of Coach K's career and all that kind of stuff. Number one, is Coach K likable? Is this when you see this announcement that he's retiring, does you as an average sports fan in America, Charlotte, are you saying this man is a legend and I can't wait to give him his flowers on this farewell tour, if you will? Like, this is a man who I will shower with praise on this farewell tour. Or where do you fall in this?
So this is a great question, Mark, because I think that Coach K falls into the category of sports guy everyone knows they shouldn't like, but begrudgingly respects.
Okay.
So I think Coach K and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and, I'm trying to think of another.
Saban?
Unlike Saban. Yeah.
Yeah.
They fall under the category of no one likes them because they beat their team all the time.
Yeah.
They're sick of them because they're ubiquitous and because people like you and I love to talk about them because we know that people will listen to what we say, because even though people hate hearing about them, they love hearing about them.
Yeah.
This powers an entire industry, which is why I'm like, oh shit, we got to find another Coach K real fast, because otherwise, like, we're not going to have jobs. But I don't even think likable applies to those guys.
Yeah.
I don't think that's even in the pantheon. Like, that's not even a possibility.
It's yeah, there's no way you could possibly be likable if you win that much. Yeah.
But you also can't be unlikable, because everybody is secretly jealous that they're not as successful as you are. And like, I have a bunch of friends who went to Duke, and to the people who went to Duke, Coach K, like, God status. Like, it's not that you like him, it's that you worship him. And I think of him as a sort of creepy Weasley face guy whose name I can finally spell only because I work in sports media.
Yeah.
And like, he to me is like, makes me a little uncomfortable. And but I'm also like, he's like, can be a little funny at press conferences. Like when I covered the ACC tournament one year, like I have this weird thing in my career, is like, I'll do really deep dives on something for a year and then remember like 5 years later that I did that. And I'm like, oh, I've actually, like, I think I interviewed Jason Tatum when he was at Duke, and I'm here being like, I don't know college basketball. And then I'm like, wait, do I know? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's this like insider outsider thing that I'm constantly like, I don't really know what I know, but I do know that Coach K has something he's been able to do. I don't understand how a guy like him could connect to players the way that he has, but I think for Coach K, this farewell tour, I think to a certain extent, guys like this, and, you know, like even Kobe's farewell tour, who's someone who's revered, and I don't mean to sound like I'm speaking badly about him at all, but like, part of the whole point of careers like that is the farewell tour.
Yeah,
I really think, like, how just, I mean, if you're, not to say narcissistic, that's not the word I'm looking for, but like,
no, it is for K. It really is. It is for all these guys. It's narcissistic. That's why LeBron's not going to retire this year. I take back what I said earlier. He's not. He's going to do a farewell tour as well. He's going to do a 5-year farewell tour,
because like that, you didn't work this hard and, you know, sacrifice so much and make so much money not to like parade around and have everyone tell you how, like, imagine next year is going to be just the absolute worst.
It is going to be the
every
worst.
Goddamn game. It could be like a Western Kentucky. I don't know. What's the team they play, Mark?
North Carolina would be
okay. It'll be a Western Kentucky, North Carolina game, and they're still going to be talking about
who is Western Kentucky
who
playing?
Could they play?
Morehead State.
It'll be a Western Kentucky Morehead State game, and they will somehow still be talking about Coach K.
Yeah, they will. That will be.
And
I'm
then
already nauseated.
He's going to be the most unlikable he's ever been, unless you're a Duke fan, which then gives you the like us against the world, and then Duke fans become worse, and then it's just like, blah.
And then John Shire's the coach, and they suck, and then everything just kind of, the momentum dies, and no one really gets Duke again.
And then no one talks about Duke, and everyone's like,
farewell tours in general. You're kind of hitting on it there for a second, but is there a situation where farewell tour is well received in your eyes? Because I do think of like all the farewell tours I can think of, Jeter, Kobe, those are pretty much the big recent ones. All of them are like, do we need to do this
to have a successful farewell tour?
You have to be hot.
Yeah, like I wonder if you have to be really attractive to have a successful farewell tour. Because I was thinking about this the other day, because this person I used to work with at Vox, a friend, Rebecca Jenkins, covers internet culture for Vox Media, and she wrote a story about TikTok and how like you'd think the algorithm would mean that, you know, you discover that all these people from places that normally wouldn't have been discovered, or musicians, or would rise to the top, and no, the most famous people are just hot people who do like tiny little dances in front of their phones, and no one really knows what they do, but they have millions of followers, and it's like, because they're just hot. It's like high school, like they're just hot. And I wonder if someone like Kobe or Jeter can be, and not to objectify athletes or anything, but like I wonder if they can go on these farewell tours and make themselves likable, because all of a sudden the pressure's off, so they can joke and they can make themselves more charismatic, but also they just look good. So people are like, oh, all right, I guess you're okay. But Coach K is like, you know, he's Coach K. And so it's hard. He can't, there's nothing he could do or say like charismatically or sort of physically that would make people be like, you know what, I think you're all right.
I do.
But like, is that awful? You know
no, it's not, because as I'm thinking through it, I think Coach K's farewell tour, it doesn't matter. Like he could do whatever the hell he wants. I
Right.
don't think he's worried about this, but I don't see Coach K's farewell tour picking up a single fan. I don't see him changing a single person's mind. There's nobody that's
No.
like all it's going to do is the people that like Coach K, which at this point are basically just like the Duke fans.
Yeah.
They're gonna shower him with. That's what's so confusing is because he's gonna go around from school to school. They're gonna play a game at like Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech's gonna have a gift for him, and the place is gonna like, I don't know, are we supposed to clap for this guy? Like, I kind of hate this guy, but I guess we'll sort of clap for him. What the hell is going on here? I don't think there's anybody that's like, man, I've hated this guy his whole career. He's won so many games. He beats my team all the time. But now that he's leaving, I got to say, I got to tip my cap and respect. I can promise you that with Coach K, nobody's going to do that. They're like,
who it will
get this guy the hell out of here for all sorts of reasons. Yeah, he kicked my team's ass. He's also a dick, and I hate him. Get him out of here.
Exactly.
That's how people feel about K. Yeah.
You know who is going to become more likable on their farewell tour when it happens?
Who's that?
Saban.
Yeah, I think so. I think Saban.
He's gonna somehow because he is sort of a charismatic, and he can be fun and funny when he wants to be, and he looks fine for an older guy, and he has do you know what I mean?
I'm glad you brought this. There is a difference between Saban and K and Belichick and all of these guys who win a lot, because I do think that is a nice umbrella statement that just like, you hate this guy because he beat your team all the time. And there's a lot that goes into that of, that is a lot of it is like, I don't like that my team keeps, if Duke has a program like Northwestern, nobody cares about K, but at the same time, he is very different from Saban. If you pay attention to how those guys operate and just the way they have Saban almost doesn't have the media in his hand. Like, Saban hates the media. And K has he's pulling all the strings.
Is like coyly sweet at times and never takes the blame for anything.
Anything.
Everything is someone else's fault.
Yes.
And Americans hate that.
He's also convinced everybody that he's like a leader of men. And if you went to a Duke practice, and I've never been to a Duke practice, but I know guys that played at Duke, and this is like not a secret at all. K, for lack of a better term, and we'll bleep this, he mother his players. That's the term we would use in the coaching basketball. He is from the Bob Knight coaching tree. He is from the Bob Knight philosophy. But I think it's been sanitized. You take that's who he is behind the scenes.
Yes.
Then it becomes sanitized. ESPN puts a little magic on it, a little Disney sprinkle magic, and it comes out that Coach K is like this John Wooden type figure, leader of men, who's like a father figure to these guys and all that. And I'm sure there's some part of that, but that's the part that because Saban, in my mind, Saban is Saban, and Saban is Saban behind closed doors. Saban is Saban in front of cameras. Saban is Saban no matter who he's talking to. Love him, hate him, whatever. That is Nick Saban. That is who he is.
Same with Belichick.
Yeah, same with Belichick.
And K
is definitely like kind of manipulating things here. They're pulling strings, like winning, going with USA Basket. Like, K is the king of the brand play. We'll put it that way. Like, he's doing things for the brand. He's the LeBron. He is the brand is always on the mind. Whereas Saban's like, I don't know if this helps my brand or not, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to kick your ass on this in this game. That's just, I don't know. He doesn't think
Saban's like, what's a brand?
Yeah.
Except not because he does Affleck commercials now. But
that is true.
I think that's exactly right. That there is this, I think people respect authenticity, and I think whether that's good or bad, I think that Coach K doesn't feel authentic to people, and so his farewell tour is also going to feel gross.
It's gonna feel gross. I'm glad you said that.
I'm just pissed because now college basketball next year is going to become
it's gonna be nauseating. It's gonna be really
the
bad.
worst.
It's gonna be the absolute worst.
Something I was also thinking about in terms of the pandemic and coming out of it, and in terms of fans, because we were initially going to talk about this, and I was thinking about something that's sort of similar, is there are certain things that the pandemic changed, and then there are certain things that the pandemic didn't change, and I think that this sort of ties into the other things we were talking about too, which is that fans have always sucked, and now they've been, I mean, I love fans, I am one, but also Bills fans threw dildos onto the field, for crying out loud. When Russ got popcorn thrown at him. And I think that it's important to separate. I mean, the John Morant stuff where it was awful racism. That's just that is above and beyond awful. And like, I hope that hasn't been happening or won't continue to happen. I do think though, like the popcorn and like the throwing of water bottles, like that doesn't feel, and like the rushing the court, like that feels like, to me, by talking about it so much and making it this huge story and like rewarding it with attention and outrage, like in terms of authenticity, like fans see that and see that as some sort of authentic disruption. Like, look at this guy, and then like want to go become that guy. And so it just keeps repeating because we're feeding the fire.
Yeah.
In a way that I think that is something that the pandemic made everyone like desperate for attention, or to like have something to talk about, or like be a part of the story. That it's sort of the two sides of that, where you could either self-reflect or you could just go completely buck wild. And like, I don't think the fans are the people who maybe didn't do that self-reflection.
The whole fan discussion is a media concoction.
Yes.
And the reason it is because, I mean, we've been seeing it because people have been sharing videos from the old days. And by the old days, I mean like 2018.
Right.
Like there is ample data that shows that the fans have been assholes forever, dating back forever. Like this has gone on for, you said, I mean, Ja Morant's family hearing racist comments, that's been going on forever. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying that in a tone of like his family should accept that, or like we should accept that. We shouldn't, but that has been going on forever. And the reason like it feels like there's a crisis and we're at a problem is because we haven't had fans at these sporting events forever. Mm-hmm. They've come back, and I think people just forgot that fans are dicks in general. Also, and I guess like the other point I make is like, they're being all of the stuff that's happening was addressed in the moment. Like the Jazz, like all these fans that are acting out have been banned. They've been arrested in some cases. They've been charged. They've been like, I don't understand the discussion, the outrage. Fans have to be better. That is certainly true. But I don't know who's on the other side of this that's saying like, I actually don't have a problem with like fans acting out or whatever.
That's why it feels like a straw man argument.
It is a straw man. And it's not even a real story, but like we spend a lot of time talking about it. And plus, like you said, given certain context, like fans acting out is funny to some people. If a guy's running on the field streaking at a football game and just like waving his shirt around his head, everyone's sharing that and talking about how funny this is, and it's hilarious. Like if the guy runs out on the court and touches the backboard in a vacuum and does nothing else and then gets tackled. And there is no Russell Westbrook popcorn, Ja Morant's family in Utah, Kyrie Irving getting water bottles thrown. If none of that had happened and this guy just randomly on a Tuesday night at a random game and the NBA just goes and touches the backboard, everyone loves it. And they're like, this is so funny. This guy's a hero. This is hilarious. So I think that's important to have that context. But at the same time,
I also think that it is, though. First of all, did you see Bradley Beal just absolutely losing it? And the fan walked out. He was laughing so hard, and I was like, that makes me feel so good, because at the end of the day, like, it comes down to like, don't be a dick to the players. And if a player thought that was funny, but I think that in something, and I've said this a lot before, but like environment determines so much more about behavior than individual characteristics. Like in those moments, those fans are like, mob mentality is a real thing. Those fans, and I'm not saying that it takes away from individual responsibility. It doesn't. But I think people forget that, like, when you fuel the fire with being like, look at these awful fans, people get it in their heads. They're like, oh, I get attention for this. And then in the moment, they're like all fired up because everyone's chanting stuff.
Everyone's booing Kyrie Irving. And then Kyrie Irving's walking off, and you're like,
ah! And like, if you're a well-adjusted person, you don't do that. But you know, if you're sort of in it and you're not, and you're primed to do it anyway, then you do it. And I think that the environmental thing, the reason that this sort of makes me think about what we're talking about, is that like all these guys retiring, like maybe behavior modeling, where it was like wearing masks, if that hadn't become a divisive issue, no one would have had a problem with it. But people had a problem with it. But like, once more people started doing it, people were like, okay, I guess I'll wear a mask. Now, like, Aaron Rodgers retires, Brad Stevens retired. They're, you know, it's like, oh, maybe I can do this. Or it's like,
I like you immediately went to Aaron Rodgers retires, by the way. I like you just said it like it's happened.
But do you know what I mean? Like these sort of these things that other people start, or like Roy Williams retires and Coach K can be like, oh, well, I won't be the first to do it. So like, I think people are much more simple than a lot of us would like to think.
Yes.
I started wearing, like, I bought a bunch of sweaters because I saw someone on Instagram wearing them. Like, it's not complicated.
As it turns out, we all have monkey brains.
As it turns out, we're all morons.
We're all morons. We're idiots. Every single one
So
of us. Yeah. The what a wild day. By the way, we were prepared to talk about the fans, and now like we're talking about it. I'm like, I'm kind of bored by this. to
I'm
be
so
honest with
glad
you.
we don't have to. Let's not talk about it anymore. Okay, here's my question to you. Who would surprise you the most if they retired?
If they retired, who would surprise me?
Because I
the
feel
most?
like
Well,
Coach K would that have been your answer?
Tate looked pretty sure. Tate, like
Okay.
if when Tate told me
When he
that,
first said it though.
I was shocked. Yeah, I was shocked. I was like, that's crazy because to me, if you're making a list of guys who were going to die coaching, Coach K would have been at the absolute lock it in number one. I don't care who else you throw out there. That man is never going to stop coaching ever. He's going to be well past like I don't know. He was going to Joe Paterno it, where he's like 88 years old and he's still.
Ugh, careful.
Yeah, I guess not in that way. I mean, in the way where it's like
Right.
where Joe Paterno is running off the field because he's crapping his pants. He's so old, like he can't. Like that happened. That was a thing that happened. I watched it happen, and I thought Kay was going to do that.
Mhm.
So yeah, in that regard, that would certainly shocking. I'm thinking of like coaches, athletes that would be. I mean, obviously, like a lot of the young guys retiring would be the answer. Like Luka Doncic retires, like that's insane. But in terms of like
Right.
semi-realistic, I've talked myself into like any of these guys could do it. I've talked myself into. I really have. I mean, Andrew Luck. We didn't even mention him.
I know.
That was pre-pandemic. Andrew Luck retired. That he just
That
looks
was
and
2019.
yeah, and Andrew Luck is like, I think I'm done here. And everyone's like, well, wait, you haven't won a Super Bowl yet. And he's like, yeah, I won life though.
He's like, yeah, but I have
won
a book club.
I won a ton of money and I have a Stanford degree. So how about you?
What do you think
shut
he's
up,
up
bro?
to? We should try to get Andrew Luck on the podcast to talk about retiring.
We're talking about guys retiring early. I mean, this is yeah, maybe it's not a
You know who
pandemic
would shock
thing. Maybe
me?
this is what?
Sean McVay.
Yeah. Sean McVay would be a good one because Sean McVay, I really feel like anybody Sean McVay hasn't won a Super Bowl yet, so that would be shocking. I feel like anybody who's won something for sure is like, if they retired, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
But I also,
one,
there's some guys though who haven't, like if Kyle Shanahan, if the coach of the 49ers retired, I wouldn't be surprised because I'd be like, his dad did it. He's clearly not having that much luck. He got kind of sick of it and now he's done. Like some of Sean McVay seems too fired up. Like I could see Kyle Shanahan just like hanging out with his kids. Sean McVay, I don't know what he would do if he didn't have football.
Let's do it this way instead of who would be the most shocking. Let's throw out guys who might just follow in Kay and Roy's footsteps.
Oh, should we predict the future?
Predict the next one because I think here my mind immediately goes to Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is like, what if I kind of have no sign of retiring per se, but suddenly I just do it one day.
So good. Okay,
what if Pete Carroll retires from the?
Let's call this segment we are about to be so right. Let's call this segment like telling the future so that when we are right, because I think if we do enough of them, we'll have these clips that we can go back to.
All the conversation about Russ and is Russell Wilson happy in Seattle and like that, just like Pete Carroll looks at that and he looks at all these other old guys and he's like, I think I'm done. I think that's enough. I think I want to go chill. I want to move to Hawaii and just, chill and play guitar and take my shirt off.
I love it.
That's what
I have one.
Okay.
Dusty Baker. Dusty Baker's going to be like, I'm sick of carrying water for the Astros.
Yep.
I have a renewable energy company. I'm going to go back to California and run that.
In the same vein, maybe Joe Madden is with the Angels.
Yep.
And he won the World Series in 2016 and he's got Ohtani and Trout and can't even make the playoffs. And he's like, I'm done.
I think I'm over.
Okay. Over this. Okay.
Oh, this is so fun.
What if Saban retired? What if Saban really did like just?
Oh my God.
Hang it up. He just hangs it up. I mean, he's old too. He's old as hell. He's won everything. Like I really am fascinated by. I mean, I guess this is part of why it's shocking that Kay would retire because those guys that do win all the time, the Belichick's, the Sabans, the Kays. If it was you or I, Charlotte, we would have retired 20 years ago. We would have been like, I've won 3 titles. Like I wanted to win 1. I've won 3. This is insane. Like I'm done. That's it. So for Saban to step, like if Saban was a step away now, it seems insane because you're like, what's the difference between this one and the last 36 you won. Like they're all the same, right? And that's how I felt about K. It was like, what's changed? It's all the same. But Saban would be crazy if Saban was like, what am I doing? I can't. There's nowhere else to go. There hasn't been anywhere else to go for me for 10 years now. Like, what am I even doing here?
Saban has an existential crisis. Well, because okay, so here's the thing about these guys, right? They don't seem terribly anxious.
Yeah.
Like they don't seem like people who spend a lot of time thinking about, like what makes me happy. What do I feel like they just sort of like they're like, oh, winning makes me happy. So then they go do that. And if they are wired so completely differently from the rest of us, clearly, it's what you said. Well, then how can they ever have a line? Maybe it's their family. Like maybe their kids start being like, are you kidding me? Like maybe they
look at the kids, look at the grandkids. How old are the kids? How old are the grandkids?
I know exactly how old the grandkids are. Sorry, I mean kids.
I have another name to throw out there. Urban Meyer after the Jaguars start 0-4 and wants to spend more time with his family.
Oh, I just saw
that Tim Tebow can't block or catch a pass at tight end, and Urban's like, "What am I doing?"
You know who's gonna outlast all of us?
Who's that?
Tim Tebow.
He really is. He's gonna be
the last person to retire from sports. He's doing judo by
he's gonna be bouncing around from sport to sport. Oh man.
Well, should we? I mean, I feel like our fan lists aren't even
really relevant now, but we could do them anyway if you want. We could go through them. Why not?
You want to go through
We took the time. Let's just rip through them real quick and we'll wrap this up. So what we did, we set out, because as we said, we were playing the show. We thought, like, what is everybody talking about? They're talking about unruly fans very quickly because of Brad Stevens and Coach K. That became not that interesting of a discussion and whatever. But what we're going to do for lists was, what did we decide? Fun fans we like at our games?
Fans we can't wait to see at games. Because it's like there's always that guy or like that girl or that lady. Like, let's talk about that fan.
Stop giving attention to the racists and the people that are throwing stuff and the people that are running on the court and touching the backboard. And let's instead focus on the good fans. And what makes a good fan? What makes a stereotypically good fan?
I love this.
So that's the list. So why don't you go first? We'll go through these quickly and get the hell out of here.
My number 6 is me. My number 5. I'm a great fan and I love going to sports games. I can't wait to see myself in another sports game. Okay, my number 5 is like the super fan in the elaborate robe or like crown, or somehow they always like at a football or baseball game where they always have like a WWE championship belt somehow, or like a crown. Like I saw this guy at the Chiefs Titans AFC game a few years ago who was in the hotel lobby of where I was staying and had this like massive cape that said like King of the North or something. It didn't make any sense. And like a Viking hat. I mean, like none of this ever makes any sense, but it is clear that they keep this costume in a special box in the attic or in like a special storage unit, and they bring this outfit out and they have spent hours and they add to it every year. I love that fan.
You're talking about the people that go to the NFL fans that go to the Hall of Fame fan exhibition deal. There's something like that they have every year.
There is a fan Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there's like a fan and people just sit on Canton. Because I remember when I was at Grantland, I pitched the idea of me, because I lived in Ohio, and I was like, I'll just drive up to Canton and go to this thing. And I forget why we didn't do it. That idea didn't get nixed. It was like a scheduling conflict or something. But I was going to go up there and just like walk around and interview. Have you been there?
No, but we should do that.
We should still do that. Yeah.
That's a People Sports podcast. Like that is the most. Okay, great.
We should. We should get boots on the ground and go to the fan thing and just like interview the people that are wearing makeup in the middle of the summer when there's not even football on and they're just in Canton, Ohio wearing face paint.
And like drove there from a long way away.
From Minnesota to wear their Viking hat in Canton, Ohio. Does any part of you, because this certainly applies to me. I went on a Spike Lee rant not that long ago. Does any part of you hate that some of these fans make it about themselves too much? The guy that's like a little look at me.
Is it like you kind of hate all of the fans on your list? Like, I'm not like if you're that into it, you're sort of like, oh my god. But it's sort of the like I get excited when I see it because it's like, when you're a kid and you're stopped at this is already weird, but I'm gonna say it. And like if the railroad thing goes down, and it's usually just a normal commuter train, and you're sort of like, oh, still kind of cool. Like I love trains, but then like a freight train goes by that one time, and you're just like, oh my god, it's a freight train. And you're like, it's not objectively even that cool, but like all the cars are
But
different,
it's
and you're
just different.
excited.
It's just different.
That's how I feel about
Yeah. All right.
these fans are the freight trains of the NFL. Why am I like this?
Moving on. My number 5 is the guy who's working on his 4th beer, aka like the happy drunk, we'll call him. That's he's not belligerent yet. He's not trying to fight people, but he's definitely drunk. And he's high-fiving everybody when something on a first down. At first down, he's like, whoa, first down, and he's pointing. He's always got like funny, witty remarks about whatever's going on. He's participating in the chants. Or if you're at an NBA game and the Oregon starts playing, and he'll jump in with the defense, like, because I'm too cool for school. Like when those chants start, when the Oregon starts, dun, 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 I'm not the one that's like clapping with them. I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not gonna clap, like you're whatever. But this guy is a little drunk. He's getting into it. He's chanting. He's the songs during timeouts he's dancing with. Maybe he's wearing a funny jersey, like a not necessarily a number 69 jersey, but like he's wearing like an old school player that is a rare find, of the team. And I don't know. I like that guy. That guy's fun to be around at the sporting event. And then he has one too many beers and I hate him.
Yeah.
He has one too many beers. I'm like, all right, get that guy out of my face.
The 4th beer, he's fine. The 5th beer, you're like, absolutely not.
Yeah, he's the 5th beer. He's calling everyone assholes on the other team. Every time someone makes a shot, he's like, "You asshole." It's like, dude, he just made a layup. Like, calm down. It's not...
I saw that guy at the Knicks game after probably like 15 beers, and he was just like standing in line trying to get out of the arena, and he just sort of had his head down, and he was like, and his buddy was like, "You gonna be okay?" And he was like, "I don't know." And you're just like, you were fun 10 beers ago. I love that. Okay, my number 4 is the guys with body paint and no shirts on in negative 20-degree weather, because it made me feel so superior. I'm like, what an absolute moron. But then at the same time, you're sort of like, what must it be like to have such little fear?
I'm with you. I'm with the second one. I'm with the latter. Yeah. We just got done talking, Charlotte, about the pandemic and reassessing your life and what matters to you and like trying to find things that are important. And I feel like those guys have figured it out. And it's watching the Chicago Bears lose to the Packers at Soldier Field with their chest painted.
Yes.
And like that's happiness to these guys. And they're simple guys, and all they want is just to throw some beers back and paint
get on
their chest and get on national television with their bellies jiggling.
Yeah, seriously.
And that makes them happy.
Yeah. So that's my 4th.
I like it. I like those guys. My number 4 is the successful gambler who is hitting all of his bets. He's on a run. He's like, it's all happening. So my experience with this was the big time I experienced this was Ohio State was playing Kentucky in Vegas a couple years ago. It was right around Christmas time. And I was with Greg Oden at the game, and one of the Ohio State boosters had a suite at the game in Vegas. And because they invited Greg up to the suite, and I was with Greg, so I got to go up to the suite.
Your smartest move was being Greg Oden's friend.
I recommend it to everybody.
I would love to try.
So I'm in this suite with all these rich dudes that love Ohio State, and they have an insane amount of money on. I don't remember what the number was, but I remember hearing it just like, oh my god! And
on the game.
On the game, on the first half over, the second half over, the anything you can imagine. These guys had hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line, and they hit everything. And these guys were wild. They were like, it was the most fun I've ever had. Like Ohio State won the game, so I was excited about that. We beat Kentucky, and I'm going crazy about that. But then also all these guys are just high fiving. They're like, we're going out to the clubs, like everybody. And it was the most fun I've ever had as a fan watching it. It was a regular season game in Vegas, and the arena was like half full, maybe. Like nothing about it says this should have been a fun game other than like my team won, and these guys I was around they won a shit ton of money, and they were super happy. So successful gamblers are fun.
I love that. Oh, that's such a good one. All right, my number 3 is a massive family. Where you see them in the concourse, and they're just like, it's a mom and a dad and probably the grandparents, and they just have somehow like 30 kids.
Yeah.
And they're all different ages, and you have no idea how they're related, but they all look exactly alike, so you know they're related. And they're all wearing, they're only 2 jerseys that they're wearing. It would be like the whole family is in Tom Brady and Gronk uniforms at Gillette, like no deviation except for like the one little kid who's a Vinatieri jersey on.
Or the one little kid's a fan of the other team, the opposing
yeah,
team.
exactly.
Just to
Like,
be
like one little kid in a Colts jersey.
A Colts jersey.
Like,
Peyton
what
Manning.
happened there? Yeah, exactly. But like, I just love because I love imagining the process that it took for them to get out of the house or like meet in the parking lot. Like the logistics, like you bring this, I'll bring that. We'll meet here. They call them when they get there. No one can find each other, but somehow they all end up in that concourse, like 50 people at the same time, just like happy to be there. And for some reason, it's so funny to me.
This is their one family vacation for the year, is just driving 30 minutes down the road to watch the Patriots play in week 6.
Like, and they're all there.
That's it. Yeah, that's our family
vacation.
All they
want.
That's all they want. That's I keep going back to, I think I've referenced this a few times on the show, but my favorite Louis C.K. joke / bit, whatever, is for a father of multiple kids, when you go on vacation, there is no vacation except for the time when you put all the kids in the car and then you shut the door and then walk around the car to get into the driver's seat. That's the vacation. That's what I think about, is like the dad in that situation as you're going through the logistics.
Everyone's contained.
Yeah.
And you're on the outside.
And you're the one time you just get to take a deep breath and be like, all right, now I step in the car and go back to the madness. Yeah. Those are great. That's a great answer. Number 3 for me is grandmas, just grandmas in general, just old ladies. I know some people that maybe listen to my other show that I do say, no, hang on a second, Mark, don't you hate Sister Jean? To which I would say, never hated Sister Jean. One, she's not a grandma. Great point. Not a grandma. Number 2, I hated the coverage of Sister Jean. I didn't hate her. I love the idea of an old lady being at a game. Anytime they panned San Diego State, I went to a game down there. They got these 2 old women that sit in the student section, and it warms my heart. I know Colorado is another school that had these 2 famous old women who are fans of the Colorado Buffaloes. Like, anytime I hear those stories, as long as I don't hear them every single second of every single game, like we were hearing with Sister Jean.
Yeah.
I love grandmas. I love old ladies who know, and they're not just there for novelties. Like, they actually know the team. They've actually been following the game. They actually, they're not just there on a night out because their grandson wanted to go to the ballpark. They're like, our bullpen's a disaster.
and they are so mad at the coach always.
Yes. Yeah.
They're like, why did you pull him?
Yes.
Why did you pull him?
Yes.
And they're right.
And they're always right. No matter what, they're right. Every grandma sports fan is right. Absolutely. So.
Okay. My number 2 is the little kid wearing a throwback jersey from before they were born.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
It means that they are like trying so hard to learn and are invested, and like, probably someone in their family or they just want to feel like connected to something bigger than themselves. And they're at that age where they're like starting to learn how to research stuff.
Yeah.
And they're in like, even if it's like a Larry Bird jersey, they're still like, I know Larry Bird exists and I'm 5,
My dad told me about this guy, and I looked him up on YouTube, and he's pretty awesome. And then that kid's like the wrong generation kid. He's like, man, if I was just born 20 years earlier, like that, I feel like that was
He's an old soul already.
Yeah, I'm an old soul. You're like, dude, you're 7. What are you talking about?
Right. For the little kid who's like, I just like the way they played basketball in the 80s.
It was more pure.
She's like 3 years old. And then you look at the mom, and the mom's like, I didn't tell her to say that.
Number 2 for me is the guy or gal who fills out a scorecard at a baseball game, which is my mom. My mom does this. If you go to a Chicago Cubs game with my mother, she will buy the official scorecard, and she will fill it out as though she's the scorekeeper, as though at the end of the game, someone in the press box is going to be like, damn it, did anybody take notes? Did anybody have? And then my mom's like, got it right here. Got it right. I have it all. Chris Bryant. That was a triple in the gap right there. I saw. I wrote it down. You can see right there. It was a 2-1 count in the bottom of the 6th. That's a great. I think she's kept some of them through the years. She doesn't keep up, but she'll watch every single pitch and mark it. And she taught me how to do it too, because there's like an art to filling those things out. It's like you got to kind of.
I don't know how to do it.
The language, and this was a big deal. Like the old heads of baseball that love doing that. When the extra innings rule was put in place, where guys start on second in the extra innings, I remember this being like a point of contention for people is like, when I fill out my scorecard, what do I do? How did that guy get to second? How did he get to second? We have to make sense of this.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So those people that do that, the old folks at the ballpark that are tracking every pitch and I love those. It takes me back to that's baseball to me.
That's baseball.
Like you see that, you're like, that is baseball.
It actually does. I saw a friend on Instagram on her story posted a picture of filling out a scorecard, and I immediately just felt like great. Yeah. It was like this warm, lovely feel. I was like, oh, sports. My number one, Mark, is the old lady in a wheelchair and decked out in vintage gear that she got when it was new. It's the grandmas. That's my number one. That is. I love them. The only thing that makes me feel better than watching someone fill out a scorecard is like the lady who's there and who's been there, and
she knows everything, and you kind of think she's like a cute little throw into the fan base, but then you like actually talk to her and she's like, she knows everything and she remembers everything. Or she
stands up out of her wheelchair and bleep this out. She's like, "F you, Rex." And you're like, whoa.
Okay. One thing I found, this is definitely just anecdotal, but I'm curious your thoughts on this. Mm-hmm. I've found that women who have been sports fans for a long time, again, very anecdotal. I'm not saying this is the case. I'm curious your perspective. Mm-hmm. It feels like sometimes women will latch on to like one team. So if you're from, say, like a Chicago, mm-hmm. and you fast forward, you're not like in my experience, women aren't necessarily the older women aren't necessarily fans of the Bears and the Bulls and the Cubs and the Blackhawks, and I love them all, and I just love all my Chicago teams. There's something that happens at some point where they like, I love the Cubs, and I just like, I'm all in on the Cubs. I like the Bears. I mean, I'll watch the Bears, but like the Cubs are my team. Yeah. And I feel like that happens. I'm basing this off of my grandparents. I'm basing this off of my mother. Like, it feels like they just kind of pick one team and then they go all in on that team, and they know everything about that team.
I feel like that's not wrong. I feel like I know more older men who are sort of like city team, like across spectrums, and then more women who, and it's not to say that the men know more. It's like they'll know less about all of the teams, but they follow all of them. And then the old lady is just like, can tell you every single thing about the football or the yeah, actually.
So
listener, write in and tell us if you think that this is like
it might be stupid.
It's probably generalization, but like it feels like I feel like I know what you're talking about.
What are you going to lock in on? Are you a Patriots or a Red Sox girl?
I was just trying to think about that. I feel like maybe this career like screwed me over for any chance of doing that, but it'll be the Red Sox.
Yeah. I
say that, but it's going to be baseball.
It depends on how good Mac Jones is, I guess.
Oh, God.
So it'll be the Red Sox. So as you said, it'll be
Okay, Mr. Justin Fields. I'm not even a Bears fan, but now I am.
Wow. Now I am. My number one is just the innocent, enthusiastic kid that's not jaded yet about sports and goes to the game. He's probably 7, 6, whatever, and does not boo the other team. He has no idea what Kemba Walker is making. He has no idea what the contracts, what their trade rumors are. He has no idea what this guy, that his favorite player, tweeted the other night and his stance on social issues or anything else. He's just like, every single guy that's wearing the jersey of the team I like is my superhero, and I love you so much, and you're the best, and I'm going to make a sign that says that, and I'm going to hold it up, and I'm going to cheer for these guys. And when we lose in the car ride home, and I'm going to ask my dad, why did that happen? How did that happen? Like, I love our guys. Like, Dad, do you think they're sad? Do you think they're sad? Those kids are awesome. And then something happens along the way, and we all get bitter and jaded, and we're like, all right.
You know what those kids are?
What?
They're still ever hopeful. They are still
the ever hopeful kids. There it is.
Oh, they don't know capitalism exists.
Yeah.
Also, I heard you say recently on Pardon My Take that you don't know if you're a communist yet.
Oh,
you got to do more research.
I got to do more research.
And I appreciated that, because I was like, that is the representation I want for this podcast, which is that we spew facts that we do not know, but when it's an important issue, we do the research.
I am definitely whatever is in vogue. I am that.
I know, and I like
that.
I like that you said that, but you were also going to research Taiwan or something. So shout out.
I'm also like a week away from having done all the research on any issue that you want me to have a thought on. I'm like, I'm very close.
I'm very close to finish the research.
Very close. Very close, Charlotte. I'll
oh, brother. Well,
congratulations to Brad Stevens. Congratulations to Coach K on accomplishing your dreams and whatever else.
You know what's going to suck is when we both retire on the next podcast.
I think we might. I think that should have been our answer. Like, who is going to retire next? It's like, it's us. It's definitely us.
Meanwhile, our boss is like, haha, look at your contract. And we're like, fair point.
That's not how it works. We'll get back to regularly scheduled programming. This feels like it was a little different because
I felt
Coach
good
and Brad
about
Stevens ruined us. Yeah, I just wanted more notes on Thomas Lipton and stuff like that, but we'll get.
Okay, well, we'll get back to. We'll find more geography and history We'll go hard on the geography and history next week. How's that sound?
I would love that. In the meantime, see you guys.
Hey pals, thanks for watching the People Sports Podcast YouTube channel. For more of mine and Mark's very weird rabbit holes, stick around, watch more. You can subscribe, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. We're going to give you all the weird stuff we possibly can.